Welcome back, everybody. Once again, this is Marc Lawrence, and we're all set to go against the spread. And it's NFL playoff time, college football championship game time, and we've got a lot to share with you today here on the show. And with that, let me introduce our cast of experts on our panel today. First of all, from Las Vegas, the legend himself, Jim Feist. Jim, how's everything going in Vegas? And more importantly, how's the weather?
Well, the weather's gotten a lot better in the last few days. We had a 30-degree temperature the other day, and that was unbelievable. 37-mile-an-hour wind chill 11 degrees. And today, it's 75. It's pretty insane here.
Yeah, we used to call that flu weather back home in Cleveland, where it's snowing right now.
Yeah, my brother-in-law sent me pictures of the snow. They had 4 inches of snow. Then they had 4 more inches of snow. And he sent me pictures, and it's a mess. Looks nice, though. And now they have 12 more hours of snow before it's supposed to stop.
Well, it looks nice. It looks serene, but it's also cold, very cold, Jim, as you know. And did you get snow in Vegas? Did you get snow in Vegas?
Well, we had in the 55 years I've been here, we've had snow, I think, 6 times. And a few years ago, it's pretty crazy. My house is at 3,300 feet. The strip is about 1,200 feet. And we had 9 inches of snow in the backyard, which was kind of crazy. That was the most I've ever seen. But that was about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. No, probably 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah.
We get snow, with, let's say, half an inch to an inch accumulation that probably is gone either by the next morning or the night before, probably about once every 4 to 5 years.
Wow, the dogs had to love that, Jim, in the backyard with all that snow.
They did. Actually, I have video of the dogs going out and playing in it, because we've got a big park right next to the house, and they were out there. I mean, 9 inches of snow is a lot, especially for a place like Andy said. We only get like a half an inch when we do get it, but that was a big one.
Well, Andy, are we going to have any weather as being a factor this weekend in the NFL football playoffs? I know for Denver and Chicago.
I think for whatever you can trust the 3 or 4 day forecast, I guess that I'm not hearing snow. I am hearing cold temperatures in probably more so in Chicago than in Denver. But they have enough trouble forecasting the next half hour. But I've not heard any snow in the forecast. But that doesn't mean there won't be some that develop depending upon what happens in the upper Northwest.
And what about
I have
New
a
England,
friend
Andy?
that's going to the Chicago game. He's leaving Saturday morning, and he's taking his ski clothes. I mean, that's an afternoon. Well, it's a night game there because it's 6:30. So, and it's going to be about 10 degrees, and possibility of snow. Well, you have it right there. You could probably pull it up. Yeah, you got possibility of snow, 12-mile-an-hour winds, and if you open it up, you got wind gusts. That would be probably up to 30 miles an hour. So it's going to be nasty there. I would say
Greg,
that.
how's everything going to be for you this weekend in Asheville?
Very cold. I think they have the temperatures. Let's see the temperatures this weekend, because we just hit. It's 22 right now, so it's going to be a low of 14 tomorrow morning. But I mean, it's going to get up to 44 tomorrow. That's to be the highest temperature for the next 5 days. So yeah, we're going to go through a nice little cold spell. No snow though, but it'll be cold. But I like it.
You call flu weather, Greg. You get the flu with temperatures.
I don't go outside, so this way I don't have to worry about that.
Not even for the mail.
It's like from the house right to the car, and from the car right to where I got to go, to right back into the car. So,
Mark, when you talk about cold weather and teams coming from warm weather climates or indoor stadiums, who does it affect more, the warm weather climates or the indoor teams?
Well, the warm weather teams going into cold weather, it affects more, obviously, the warm weather team who's not used to the weather, frigid conditions. I'll just look at the Miami Dolphins and all the failures they've had when they've had to go up to New England in December to play the Patriots. ended up being frozen fish, is what they ended up
Or
being.
Tampa Bay for many, many years. But keep in mind, Tampa Bay was a really lousy time, and a pretty lousy team in those times. So, yeah, they never won under 40, but they never won over 60 very often either.
Well, Houston's an indoor team, and the Rams are a warm weather team, and so are San Francisco.
Yeah.
But Seattle's not going to be too bad this week, though.
No.
Well, the Rams are technically a dome team because they can close that roof. Is that correct?
Yeah. I don't think the roof closes. I don't think the roof closes.
I don't think it closes.
Where?
No.
So far.
Oh, yeah, I'm
believe
sure it
does.
does. Yeah, they
Does
put
it?
a lot of money into that.
They can close it?
Yeah, I would think they should. Yeah.
Really?
They put too much money into that. There's no way they wouldn't be able to close that. That'd be surprising. Yeah, that was the most expensive building that was ever constructed. They have to have a dome. Because you never know if it does rain in California.
The Rams owner just doesn't have enough money.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's a joke.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Speaking about a joke, I got to share this with you guys. Last night, my wife and I were watching Hollywood Squares, which has been kind of redone, and it's really, really rather entertaining. And one of the squares was Jay Moore, an actor from back in the past. Andy, I don't know if you remember him. He's not that old.
Jay Moore, sure.
Yeah. Well, you know who Jay Moore is married to, Andy?
I did know it one time, but I didn't have space on my hard drive in the brain to remember it.
Jeannie Buss, the owner.
Oh,
of the
okay.
Lakers.
Well, that's right. After she left Phil Jackson, after they split up. Yeah.
Yep. So Jay was in pretty good condition, pretty good shape.
Yeah.
As long as that prenup works for him, I guess, nonetheless.
Hey, speaking of shows, I mean, we all talk about, we share what shows we're watching and stuff.
Yes.
You guys watch Landman?
Oh, it's terrific.
That's an awesome show. And
You know,
Billy Bob, what's his name?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Thornton.
He's a great actor.
He's a terrific actor. He's been in so many different movies and series, and he steals the show. Him and his wife, who he has to keep a leash on.
Oh, she's completely nuts.
Unbelievable. She
She's
was
looking
on,
good. She looks great, but she's nuts.
she was on CBS Morning
who he
News.
was once married to?
I'm sorry?
Do you know who he was once married to in real life?
Yeah. The girl who I can see her name and I can't remember. She wore the pants in the family, I kind of believe.
Angelina Jolie.
That's who I'm talking about,
Oh.
right? Exactly.
Who is that? Billy Bob?
Yeah.
Billy Bob, yes. Billy Bob.
By the way, SoFi Stadium isn't a traditional dome. It's an indoor-outdoor stadium with a massive translucent canopy roof made of some sort of panels that provides shelter from sun and rain, but leaves the sides open to allow ocean breezes and a natural connection to the outside, making it more of a covered but open-air venue. So
Nice.
I'm more
Very nice.
confused now than before.
Well, just keep in mind, as far as the Rams playing in the cold, they nearly beat the Eagles in the snow last year. I don't think they'll be terribly affected.
Well, I think, wasn't it last week they played outdoor in Carolina, which isn't really a cold weather site.
Yeah.
But they did just that. And also you've got Houston playing in a cold weather site who just got the job done in a cold weather site against Chicago. So
That game against they played Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
That game against Pittsburgh, was that Houston being that good, or was that Pittsburgh being that bad?
Combination of both.
I agree.
Yeah, and keep in mind it was a blowout, and Stroud couldn't have played any worse.
Yeah, exactly.
So just imagine what could happen if Stroud actually goes out there and plays just like an average quarterback.
There's actually talk in Houston about starting Mills
Really?
instead of Stroud.
No, there's whoever's dad is probably just coming off some sort of
drug expedition.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Stroud was not
I know
very
they did like
impressive.
Mills. They did like Mills when he filled in. I know that.
I thought he played very well this year when he came in. Actually,
Right.
Now, maybe what Houston might be considering, and I don't know if they've been public with it, is that if Stroud struggles, they won't have any issues in bringing Mills in there.
Correct.
As a backup, but not to start the game. But he'll be prepared, and it'll be interesting to. Well, I'll see if I can find something.
Correct.
How many reps he's getting in practice this week, just to be sharp.
By Stroud was very shocking because I never thought he would play like that, but maybe just got a little nervous.
Having TJ Watt back, I think, helped the entire Pittsburgh defense. Because remember, what was it? 2 pick sixes that Houston scored in that game. So it's not like they scored 30 points, but 14 of them were the result of defensive players, and so they basically had scored only 16 points, 1 touchdown and 3 field goals, I think it was.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think of Harbaugh signing with the Giants?
That's where I was going to go, Jim. Good comment.
Good. Okay.
You didn't, Mark. You didn't get the memo that Jim's hosting the show.
I never got it.
Jim's hosting the show today.
Well,
there's good news. There's good news and bad news for Giant fans. The good news is, or the bad news is, that Harbaugh has been horrible the last few years at protecting double-digit leads. The good news is, he won't have that opportunity very often next year.
Nope. Andy, that's an AI statement. That's absolutely perfect.
That's a glass half full, glass half empty.
Has he officially signed?
From what I understand, he has.
I think what I read this morning in the New York Post is they're still working out the final details of the contract. He's supposed to get $20 million a year for 5 years. Make him amongst the highest paid coaches. I think they said he was making $17 million a year in his last few years with the Ravens.
The thing that I get it's just conversation here. I mean, I'm not knocking the guy. I like John, but he's had so much talent in Baltimore, and he's not been able to produce much with it. And you get a guy like Tomlin, who's not had a lot of talent, and he produced almost the same thing that Harbaugh did with talent. So, I mean, is Harbaugh really in a regression mode? Or do you think maybe the change of scenery will really revive him?
Reinvigorate him? It's possible. Keep in mind, both Tomlin and Harbaugh had great, successful, long-time, 18, 19-year careers. Yeah. Most of their success in the playoffs especially came early in their tenures as they took over teams that had talent. I think Tomlin took over for Cowher when Cowher retired, and I believe that Harbaugh took over from Brian Billick, who had those great teams in the early 2000s with the Super Bowl. What I don't understand with the Giants, and because one of the criticisms of Harbaugh this year was Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, didn't use Derrick Henry very much in the fourth quarter of games when the games were on the line. That was a lot of criticism, and a lot of us were dumbfounded by that decision, and it had to come from Todd Monken, and Harbaugh apparently wants Monken to come with him to the Giants as offensive coordinator.
Well, that would be a good move if he can pull that off.
I don't know that Monken's the right guy. I mean, again, in critical situations, Derrick Henry was nowhere to be seen. Well, how do you do that?
There had to be a reason for that. I don't know if it was health or physical or whatever it happened to be, because he's just too good of a talent to be sitting on the bench and crunch.
Yeah, but it happened. It was repeated. It was not like one or a two-time thing. It happened several times, especially late in the season. He had that one game after he was criticized for not using Henry. That's the game where they gave him 30. The next game they gave him 36 carries. He got 200 and something yards. But there were earlier times this season as they were attempting to get back into the race, which they ultimately did. The lack of Henry, who was known for being a better or more effective in the fourth quarter than in the first quarter, because he just wore the opposing defensive lines down, was questionable. So I'm surprised that the Giants would allow him to bring it on. Because I mean, unless that was a decision Harbaugh made, but usually those decisions are left to the offensive coordinator, what plays to run and who to use.
Well, guys, let's get specific about the National Football League playoffs if we can. I'm going to ask everybody what you guys took from last week in the wild card round. Was there anything that caught you by surprise, or anything that you think was noteworthy? Jim, I'll start with you.
Well, there's a lot of things I can think of. I mean, San Francisco's showed last week that Philadelphia's been kind of eating their food, playing with their food all year long. And even though San Francisco has so many people out, they found a way to win that game in Philadelphia, and that's a big win. But San Francisco ends up losing more defensive players and Kittle, and now they have to go to Seattle, completely across country, a lot of travel, and play Saturday, which is kind of unfair. And then Mr. Superman, Buffalo, Josh Allen did what he always does down in Jacksonville. Jacksonville played a pretty good game, but I thought that Liam Cohen made some critical errors, but Josh was Josh. And Houston, we just talked a little bit about. Their defense was pretty awesome, as it has been all year long, but I was shocked at how badly Stroud played. And I don't know if that's going to continue or not. I know they're talking about Mills replacing him, and maybe, like Andy said, maybe Stroud will start the game. But if he starts playing like that again, maybe Mills will come in. This Rams-Chicago game is unbelievable because it's really bad weather. And I have a friend that's going there, and he's flying out there on Saturday. And the weather is horrible. It's going to be horrible. And I don't know if that's going to affect the Rams or not. I mean, Stafford is an older guy. He has some injuries, bumps and bruises. And as you get older, those kind of things affect you more. I don't know how the hell Chicago keeps winning. I mean, they keep getting behind by a ton of points and then come back in the fourth quarter. But they're doing it, and they've done it all year long. I know the Rams are the better team, but Chicago seems to be on a mission and seems to be and then of course we have the championship game on Monday. I don't know if we're going to talk about that or not, but that's an amazing game right there.
So your biggest take then, Jim, would be about how poorly C.J. Stroud performed, yet Houston won in advance. Would that be your take?
I was shocked at how poorly he played. I mean, I really was. I mean, they blew Pittsburgh out, but Pittsburgh, I mean, their offensive line could not keep the defensive line from getting to them. And, the thing is about Houston, they don't need to blitz. Their defensive line is so strong. Their front four, I mean, they can come after you. And if you don't have a decent offensive line, you're not going to protect. And then plus, Aaron Rodgers is an older guy, doesn't move. He's not mobile. He's a great arm, but he wasn't mobile. He couldn't move around. This is going to be a battle between a great defense and a very young quarterback who played an extremely soft schedule all year long. It's really hard to figure out how that's going to go because there's two competing pieces of knowledge there. In that game, is Houston going to play? Well, their defense is going to show up. We know that. Will Stroud show up and play a decent game as opposed to what he did last week? Because that was pathetic. If it wasn't for their defense, they would not have won that game.
Well, it's been their case most of the football season for Houston. The defense has really stepped up.
Yes.
I think a lot of people forget the slow start they had to the football season, 0-3 straight up in ATS, and they're kind of a freight train right now. Houston is, but we're going to dive into that game a little bit.
Haven't they won like 10 straight games?
Yeah, 12-2 since that 0-3 start, including 10 straight.
They're on a major roll. Greg DePalma, I got to ask you this question. Jim brought up a real good point about San Francisco winning despite all the injuries. Do you feel that people who watched last week the LA Chargers get dismantled, especially Justin Herbert, just take a physical beating like no other quarterback I remember seeing in a long, long time took? Do you feel that the people who watched that game and realized the injuries that they suffered, will that transpose over to their think and belief about San Francisco this week because they are the most injured team going into the playoffs this weekend? Or was it more a case of cluster injuries, if you will, in that contest for the Chargers?
Yeah, it was everything that any Charger fan feared going into that game was the offensive line. And
finally caught up to them.
Yeah. So, but again, I mean, look, Jim mentioned this last week. Why is everybody on Justin Herbert's back? And we talked about how he needed to have a big game, and it wasn't necessarily his fault, but this is going to continue. He's going to have to deal with these types of criticisms again all next year. But that's life in the NFL. But yeah, this just wasn't their year. Just like it's not San Francisco's year. They're not winning a Super Bowl. They're not beating Seattle. You got to credit them for getting as far as they did, and that's great, but it's not their year. There's too many lost stars on that team. They can't win without those guys. And that's what it's about. It's about again, like the Bears. Is it their year? No, I mean, again, if you look at it, they haven't beaten any team that's still alive in the playoffs. They beat the Packers. Again, the Packers just found ways to lose again. And so you just, once again, you got to credit the Bears for everything they've done. It's all positive, but there's only a few teams that have a shot. And I think Houston is actually one of them. But we all know Stroud can't play like that if Houston's going to even just get past the Patriots. So look, I thought if you would have told me this was the matchup before the playoffs, I'd be 100% behind Houston, 100%. But the only reason I can't be 100% now is because how can you? The way Stroud played. Stroud cannot play like that in New England and expect Houston to win, especially, and I haven't heard any update yet, do we know yet whether Collins is playing?
You feel that was more of an atypical performance by Stroud, and he's capable of bouncing back, or
well, he's definitely
some sort of funk?
He's capable because we've seen it before in the playoffs. Now he's had his better playoff games at home, so maybe there's a road playoff issue with him in his career, and that's definitely possible. But they got to get Collins out there. I don't know if they can beat the Patriots. Maybe they can. Hey, let's win one for Collins, and we'll get him back in the championship game and all that. It's possible. But it's going to be a lot harder if they don't have their best offensive player out there.
He is still listed as questionable.
Yeah.
But I do not know if he was limited in practice the other day or not.
So then, Greg, cutting to the chase, what is the number one thing you took away from the wild card round last weekend?
All of the exciting games. It was really exciting up until Monday night. Even the Patriot game wasn't really a done deal until fairly late. Not that anybody had confidence the Chargers were going to make a comeback. But yeah, that was watching Carolina give the Rams a big scare. That was a lot of fun, and the rest of the way things worked out with San Francisco's win. So that's what I would take out of it. I think it's even some sort of a record that what we saw last week with all those teams that won with the ball trailing with 2 minutes to go in the game. That had never been done before in the history of the NFL playoffs. And it all happened last weekend.
Andy, do you feel that in last week's game, in the big victory, that it was Carolina playing down to their level in that football game for the Rams? Or
I'll quickly I'll quickly give my takes on the San Francisco-Seattle game. Or San Francisco-Philadelphia game. Shanahan, as he's done all year, has probably done the best coaching job given the hands he's been dealt throughout the season. I mean, with the injuries that they've been able to overcome. How this team won 12 games is hard to say. In Buffalo, Jacksonville, that was just a case, again, of coming down to the final possession, and Josh Allen was Josh Allen. And I think Buffalo realized weeks ago that they were going to have to play on the road in the playoffs. They were not going to catch New England for the AFC East title. They knew that even after they won the rematch game, they still had too much ground to make up. So I think Buffalo has probably been preparing to play in Denver if they got by Jacksonville. So I give Buffalo a lot of credit because it's not easy to win games on the road. We don't see teams. I don't think we've seen it in the 17-game schedule yet. We saw it several times, or at least a couple of times, in the 16-game schedule where a team has won 3 road games to advance to the Super Bowl. I think the Giants did it in the second time they met the Patriots. New England last week, well, we talked about Houston. The takeaway in New England, and really it affects Houston, is the way that New England put a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert, giving him less time to make decisions, if he had any time at all to make decisions on those plays. And I think that finally was the Chargers undoing, that more teams didn't take advantage of that opportunity to just put pressure on him and challenge him to complete mid to long passes under duress. I think he was pressured more than any other quarterback this year, and it's understandable why, and I think it was sacked 54 times. So that's the takeaway there. The question is how New England's going to do now that they're facing offensively. They're going to be, and the game against the Chargers was a step up in class compared to the defenses that the Patriots had faced all year because of their schedule and the backup quarterbacks. Now they're taking another step up in class as far as facing the best defense. Chargers had a good defense. Houston has a much more formidable defense. As far as the Rams and the Panthers, the Rams have not. The Rams were never the same after they lost to Carolina the first game, which I forget what it was. I think it was in November at some point. 7 games. Their final 7 games, their defensive numbers have been absolutely horrible, including and following that game. And when for the year, the Rams have the better defense than Chicago, but I think right now Chicago's defense is not playing that much less than the Rams are playing. So I think the Rams, they had no reason against Carolina to take the game lightly, considering they lost on that field 2 months ago. They got off to the early lead, and as we have seen so often in the last 7 games of the season, the Rams were challenged, certainly defensively. They did not look at all like the defensive team that played the first 11 games.
Well, I'm going to throw this in the hat. My observation from last week is that I truly feel Buffalo escaped again. I think that they're a football team that's just waiting to end the football season. It was Josh Allen to the rescue once again for that football team. And by the way, that was Josh Allen's first NFL career playoff win or cover. He 1-4 straight up end of the spread on the road in the NFL playoffs, and he had to do it.
Well, it was Buffalo's first road win since 1992.
Yes, right.
Playoffs. Of course, they had that long drought from the late 90s to 17 or 18 when Josh Allen got there. But that's still remarkable for a franchise to go 30 years without winning a road playoff game.
I just feel it's going to be a little bit more difficult this week here for Josh Allen, playing a number 1 seed as opposed to who he beat last week. But nonetheless, let's get into the games here, guys, if we can, on the National Football League playoff card this weekend. The first game, Saturday, San Francisco is going to take on Seattle in a divisional rematch, if you will, the loss that the 49ers incurred against Seattle. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andy. Did that loss cost them the number 1 seed?
Yeah, they were playing for the number 1 seed. The winner of that game was going to get the number 1 seed, regardless, because it came down to the week before that Chicago or San Francisco, whoever won that game, and was San Francisco, would control its own destiny for the number 1 seed. And of course, when we knew that Seattle and they were coming in there with both with the opportunity to get that number 1 seed.
Well, that loss also snapped a 6-game straight up in ATS winning run by Frisco, who just keeps winning games despite being injured. It's absolutely mystifying. And I think it's all about Kyle Shanahan and the players that he has to work with here. In his career, in the playoffs, as a road dog of 3 or more, he's been there 3 times. He's won the money all 3 times. And in fact, the last 4 times San Francisco has been at Seattle, they've won and covered all 4 football games. You're looking at now at Seattle Seahawks, number 1 rested seed coming into the football game, a huge road-home dichotomy for Mike McDonald, the head coach. On the road this year, he was in his career, he's 16-2 straight up and 12-5-2 to the number. At home, he's only 9-8 straight up, 6-10-1 to the spread in the number here. In the Playbook Playoff Guide newsletter this week, there's an awesome angle that we called out in the newsletter here. That's a 91% play that does favor San Francisco in this particular game. And one final note before I hand it off to the guys, number 6 seeds in this divisional round have fared the best of all the seeds. They've gone 13-10-1 to the spread. Number 1 seeds are just 17-26-1 to the spread. And that's since 2002 when the league expanded from 12 teams in the playoffs to 14. So that's kind of my take on this football game here. I think San Francisco gets their revenge in this football game. Jim, what's your take on this football contest?
I'm very leery of all the injuries mounting up for Seattle or for San Francisco. Seattle's a much healthier team with a pretty good coach. Even though there seemed to be a better road team than a home team, this team, they know each other. Seattle's healthy. San Francisco's not. San Francisco doesn't have the ability to get to the quarterback. They can't rush the quarterback for the other team. And that opens so many things. San Francisco can run the ball if they can protect the quarterback, which they should be able to against a team that can't rush the passer. This should be a field day for Seattle. I'd like to take the points with San Francisco, but I just can't muster up the strength to push a button on a team that is so damn banged up. I mean, offensively and defensively, it's a mess for them. It's a miracle that they've gotten this far with all these injuries.
Well, Jim, as I mentioned before about San Francisco's success at Seattle, trend trackers dropped this note into us and reminded us that Brock Purdy himself 4 times on the road at Seattle, 4 wins and covers. So he'll feel at home in that football game, I'm sure, as well. Andy, what do you think happens here, San Francisco, Seattle?
Well, Seattle has certainly been better at pressuring the quarterback and certainly getting sacks. In fact, a little bit more than 2-to-1 ratio of Seattle sacking the opposing quarterback versus San Francisco getting it. But on the other side of the football, on offense, San Francisco's quarterbacks, which I guess would be the combination of Purdy and Mack, sacked the same number of times as Darnold this year. And whoever may have filled in for him a little bit late in late game situation. So getting Trent Williams back for San Francisco, I think, is a big addition. They went into Philadelphia and were able to beat the Eagles on the road, as we've talked about before. These teams played 2 games this year. In fact, they bookended the season. They opened the season against each other in Seattle. The 49ers won that game, I think it was, 17-13. They were a 2.5-point favorite in that game. And they won the total yardage 384 to 230. In the Week 18 rematch, this time in San Francisco, the line moved during the week that the Seahawks, again due to the injuries, a 3-point road favorite. They won 13-3, and they won the total yardage by almost a similar margin to what San Francisco won in the first game, 361 to 173. 12 of their 17 games were against common foes. 49ers were 8-4 straight up, 7-4-1 against the spread. Seattle 10-2. 8-4 against the spread. So they were very similar in the 8 games, which is basically, the 12 games, which is like 3/4 of their schedule were against common foes because they all played the same within the division, the same non-conference schedule as well, except for the 2 games based upon the finish position. So Seattle has been a surprise. I've had them at the top of my rankings probably since at the very latest Halloween. I think it was actually before them. I had them and the Rams. Seattle is still my top-ranked team. But Shanahan just has a way of getting so much out. Now, Kittle being out, it's a loss, but Tongas is filled in nicely at tight end. We don't know about Warren. I think the handicap is that he's not going to play, and I do believe that if it is announced that he will be cleared to play, that we may see this line go under 7. It opened 7, went to 7.5 early. It's now down to pretty much 7 across the board, and I'm likely going to be on San Francisco if I make a play on the game.
Hey, Greg, BBKK drops this note here. Interesting note about NFL teams playing the second of back-to-back games on the road in the playoffs, how they struggled outright. He's got them at 8-13, but they're good to the number, 13-8 the other way. And that applies both to Buffalo this week and San Francisco in this game. Which way are you going, Greg, San Francisco or Seattle?
Yeah, as I said before, I just think it's just not San Francisco's year. There's just too many injuries, and the Eagles beating the Eagles is one thing. Nobody was impressed with the Eagles this year. Nobody. Their loss surprised nobody. You got to give all the credit in the world for the Niners, and they deserved it. But the Eagles were just a shell of themselves last year. You even saw what happened earlier in the game with A.J. Brown. I mean, that's just. I mean, he's not going to play with them anymore. They're going to get rid of him. And they were already fired their offensive coordinator. So, it just wasn't the Eagles' year. Everybody knew it. And San Francisco went as far as they can go. Now they're playing a well-rested team that has been phenomenal this year. And their defense is so strong. Barring turnovers or anything weird happening, I agree with Jim. Not only do I think Seattle wins, I think they might just blow them out.
Greg DePalma calls for a blowout by the Seattle Seahawks in this football game.
Let me ask a simple question here. If this game were lined by the odds makers with all the same circumstances and it was lined at Pick'em, who would you like?
You're asking me, Jim, or
everybody?
Is it? You mean even in the situation with all the injuries on San Francisco at Pick'em?
Yeah, if this game was pick'em with exactly the same circumstances we have, but
Well, the concern I have is all the issues about San Francisco's defense and everything. I quoted the stats in that Week 18 game where Seattle outgained them 361 to 173. That's 190 yards edge, and you only put up 13 points. I would say if it's a pick'em game, who would I rather have? Yeah, the game's in Seattle, but I might prefer Purdy over Darnold.
I know Jim like a book, and I know exactly where he's coming from with this question here.
Yeah,
it's his famous ploy, and it's terrific. I understand exactly what he's doing. But if Jim likes a home team and they're not favored if they're in the favored 3 or less or in that range right there, he will play the money line down to even, hence pick. Yeah. And that's what Jim is asking about. Seattle pick. Which he'll be playing, I can guarantee, because he likes Seattle in this football game. Is that the reason you're asking, Jim, or are you saying?
Well, yeah, because Seattle laying 7.5 points. I mean, Circa just went to 7.5 again.
Okay.
And FanDuel, all these other places got a lot of juice on the favorite. So I'm teasing this game down to 1.5 or half minus a half.
Yep.
And I'm going to tease them with some other games I like. Because I do think that a lot of these games are marginal teams, not great teams. Everybody on this card can win or lose. And I think teasing them is probably the best angle to play them. And I feel Seattle at minus a half, or even if you have to, -1. I think that's the angle with other teams that you like. And I've already made 1, 2, 3, 4 teasers with a protection play on San Francisco +8. So, this is what I've done, because it's all about money, man. I don't give a damn who wins. It's just about whether I can make money or not. And it's because it's like investing in the stock market. I feel Seattle's going to win this game. Can they win by 8? Maybe. They might win by 20. But I have a chance to win Seattle at even, roughly, and San Francisco +8 might cover. And then I got 4 other sides that I've teased also. So I can win all of those bets. And that's what the position I've put myself in. Now, unless I'm totally wrong on the other 4 sides that I've teased, I'm going to have a good day.
Now, Jim, are you saying that those other 4 teams, in other words, you've got Seattle teased in all of those teasers, or do some of them not involve Seattle?
Seattle is the key game. I have them in every game, and
okay.
then I because that's the key. It's like a horse race.
Yeah.
This is the team that I feel is going to win, and the other teams are going to all finish second. So, and then I take San Francisco +8. So now I can have Seattle winning the game up to 8. So I can win both sides of that. Now I just have to be sure that I'm okay with the other 4 sides, which I'm not going to be able to protect. But so I have a protection bet on the Niners, but Seattle's my key team. So, well,
the other one you could protect would be the college game if you teased Indiana down.
Which is
the Monday night game, which you could do some things with.
Andy, you're too damn smart. That's the problem here. You guessed it, because if I come out of Sunday with a good situation and I have teased Indiana down, I will then make a second protection bet on Miami of Florida.
Yep.
Okay, so that's what I'm doing this way. It's about money. It's about manipulating arbitrage. Everything else, it's up to me. It's not. I don't care. You put a name on these teams. They don't give a shit about me, and I don't care about them. It's just about how do I make money.
It's a numbers game.
This is a little bit of a lesson. I've got Seattle teased with Buffalo. I've got Seattle teased with Houston. I've got Seattle teased with Chicago, and I have Seattle teased with Indiana. Now I have a straight bet +8 on San Francisco. That's the straight bet on San Francisco is a protection bet. Because if I lose this, if San Francisco wins straight up, I'm going to lose all the teasers because my key game went down. But with the protection bet, I'm pretty good. I'm okay. I'm not going to lose a lot. Now, if I get to
and you got a chance of the middle.
If I win to Seattle, yes, I definitely have a chance at the middle.
Yeah.
If I get to Monday and I'm still alive, I'll have a second protection bet on Miami of Florida. So in all of that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teasers and 2 straight bets, and I can win all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope our listeners caught that, because that's great insight from Jim Feist, this legend in Las Vegas. He knows what he's doing, and you can understand exactly why, in which direction he's going to be going.
I'm going to add one other point to that also. Jim, I don't know, you probably have not yet made the protection bet. Well, you can't, obviously, because we don't know the results. You might get more than the 8.5 that Indiana is now favored by with Miami, because I could see the public drawing that number up close to 10 by the time Monday's championship game between Miami and Indiana go off. So you could have a huge middle in that one, because we might see great movement in the Indiana line as we get closer to kickoff.
You're right. And if I thought that I was at the peak, I could actually make that bet now, because it still wouldn't be a bad bet. But I actually believe you, Andy, and I do think it will go up higher than it is right now.
Which is your favorite pick?
Well, I'm going to wrap that up, this segment, with a favorite pick with everybody, Greg. Okay.
Okay.
We'll circle back and do just that. I'm going to get through these games if we can, rather than doing a little bit of a mishmash here if we could. Andy, your comment on this game here: Seattle, San Francisco. Which side are you on?
I'm on San Francisco. I think Shanahan, and if I'm going to look, if it's, look, it could be a blowout. Seattle's that good, but San Francisco's that resilient. Like I said, you take a look at whoever San Francisco's missed this year. They should not have won 12 games especially playing in a division that sent 3 double-digit teams to the playoffs. So,
well, they had the second easiest schedule though in the NFL.
Yeah, that's why they took advantage of it. But even with all those injuries, you figure even with that soft schedule, they're given the injuries and where they were and to whom they were, they should not have won as many of those games that they did. Okay, but
that is the reason they did win those games. That's all.
Well, same thing with New England. They took advantage of it, and they didn't have the injury. But we'll get to that one soon.
You were just saying that you don't know how they were, and I was just saying that's how they were. They very
the easy schedule. Look, Seattle, the Rams had a not quite the same schedule. They still just won 12 games, and they were healthier. So they are what they are. But as far as this game goes, it could be a blowout by Seattle. But if it's not, I have more trust in Purdy than I do in Darnold, even on the road. And again, we talked about Seattle's astoundingly lopsided disparity between their home and road performance. And we go back 2 years, which is obviously the only 2 years that McDonald's has coached there. It's hard to explain considering what a great home field advantage Seattle has enjoyed, for example, under Pete Carroll, that things were turned so dramatically. I mean, I don't know which is more amazing, that they're 8-9 at home, or that they are what did we say, 14-2 on the road or something like that?
16-2. Yeah.
16-2. I mean, that's just, and that we're talking straight up.
Yes.
So that's astounding.
Well, to the spread, they're wide gaps as well. 6-10-1 to the spread at home and 12-5-2 away. So he's definitely got a pattern here. Well, I'm going to cast my vote. It's 2-1 here right now for Seattle, and I'm going to make it a split. I'm going to go with San Francisco in this football game here. I'm just I'm an admirer of what Kyle Shanahan is able to do with this football team, banged up or not. Each and every week they come to play games. I love Shanahan's playoff record. I love the fact that they've dominated here in Seattle before in the past. So we'll make it 2-2 with our call on that game Saturday. Let's stay with Saturday's games here. Buffalo Bills travel to Denver to take on the Broncos in the Mile High City. I called out the fact before that Josh Allen's won only one of his 5 career playoff road starts. Buffalo also beat Denver in the wild card round last year. Now, that might be locker room material for Sean Payton. We don't know that for sure. But let me ask you this question, Jim. It flipped from Buffalo favorite to Denver favorite. Now, was that an injury or was that money that flipped that?
That's just money.
Money.
Well, there is a little bit of a Buffalo does have some injuries at the wide receiver position.
Allen, I think, also is there's some sort of injury that he apparently is nursing that I think caused that line move when that came out on, I think it was Monday.
Well, when they were the dog, it was only the fourth time in NFL history that a number one seed in this round, divisional round, was a home dog. They would have been the fourth team. They're not going to do just that. I was a little bit surprised to see this, and maybe it's a Sean Payton thing here again, but Denver has led the league in sacks each of the last 2 years in a row. They also faced the most backup starting quarterbacks this football season, 6 of them. I also note that in the playoffs, Sean Payton has really struggled. His last 8 playoff games, he's only won the money 1 time. And they're one of 4 teams that are left here in the NFL playoffs that rank in the top 10 overall offensively and defensively. Greg DePalma, what's your take on this game? Which side are you leaning to?
Well, as I said last week, if Buffalo was able to get past Jacksonville, I thought they were a really good play, not only for the Super Bowl, but to win it. And I'm sticking with that. Josh Allen proved that right now he's the best player in the NFL in these playoffs. And that's an awful key weapon to have on your team at this time of year. I also think that it's great to see, because nobody expected Tre'Davious White to play like that. And it's not because Tre'Davious White isn't a talented kid. It's because he's just been banged up for so long. So if they can get that kind of performance from the defense, and they cause turnovers, and they're going to have to keep causing turnovers. And if they can do that, that's what they need. That's the formula. Cause turnovers, but Josh Allen win. And look, Jacksonville had one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, and it was going to be hard for Buffalo to get going because they've got to run the football. They have to have balance in their game to be explosive offensively. I know you could say most teams do, but we're talking about a Super Bowl type team, and Buffalo is not going to be able to win the Super Bowl or these types of games unless Cook can go out and establish the running game. So the fact that they were able to do it without him was a promising sign. And I just think, as I said before the playoffs began, that this might be the best road for Buffalo. Get away from home, get on the road. You've never been in this situation before. All those other situations with home field and all that didn't work. Maybe this is going to work, and I'm going to go ahead and stick with them.
Well, Jim, we know your main leg, your key play, obviously, in what you're doing here this particular weekend. In teasing situations. Which side of this game did you tease? I know you mentioned it. I forgot it. Can you remind me once again? Who are you teasing in this game?
I have Buffalo +8.
Okay. Buffalo +8.
It comes down to, well, first of all, the problem I have with it is I don't really like the Buffalo coach. And that bothers me because he makes more mistakes than a lot of people. And the Denver coach is pretty good. But I sure like Josh Allen better than Bo Nix. And Bo Nix has been kind of up and down, in and out. And this is a big game. And a lot of pressure on a guy like this. At home, he's expected to win. But like you said, and I have to give the odds makers a little bit of credit and respect. They made Buffalo the favorite at a number 1 seed. Now, granted, the money came in and they've moved Denver to the favorite, but this could flip again. This doesn't have to stay there. But right now, I've got Buffalo teased up to 8. If it happened to flip to the other side, then I probably would end up teasing Denver to 8 and would have one of those situations where I have both sides of the same game, because that's a 16-point spread right there. So, I look at opportunities, how to make money with these things. And also, we don't talk too much about it because I'm probably the only one that really focuses on totals. I do a lot of work with totals, and I will tease totals in with sides as well. I don't do it with college. I never tease a total in college, but that's a possibility when these time teams do this. If they flip again, I'll probably bet or tease Denver up to 8. So I'll have 8 on both sides, and then I'll have to figure out who to tease it with. And by the way, Denver Buffalo is the first game on Saturday, even though it's on the schedule wrong. Yeah. Seattle's the late game.
Yeah.
Yeah, good call. I wasn't even aware of that. I'm glad you mentioned it, Jim, and our listeners now know that as well.
They put these rotation schedules, the order before the matchups are before the times have been decided. TV doesn't just, they don't decide the time, and the networks until after like the Monday night game between Pittsburgh and Houston. So they had the San Francisco game listed on top. Now it seems odd that you would have two West Coast teams playing on Saturday and two East Coast teams hosting on or East and Midwest teams, but I think the reason is they want to give the number one seeds. They had so much time off. They usually play the number one seeds on Saturday and then everybody else on Sunday.
Yeah, we're going to have a situation this week where there's a team's going to play with short rest against a team that's rested as well in the playoffs. Yeah. Whether or not it factors in or not, we're going to find that out. So, Andy, which side of this game did you say you're on, bud?
I haven't yet.
Okay, let us know.
I will point out, and I use the Westgate lines opening and closing because I've been using those ever since the Stardust closed, and they're a reputable book that deals decent action there. Last week, Rams opened and closed 10-point favorites at Carolina. Last week, Chicago opened a 1-point favorite at home against Green Bay, closed a 1.5-point underdog, and the line moved the wrong way in that one as the underdog covered. In the Buffalo-Jacksonville game, Buffalo opened 1.5-point road favorite. Jacksonville closed a 2-point home favorite. Once again, the line move went the wrong way. In the Philadelphia-San Francisco game, opened 3.5 Philly up to 5.5. The underdog, the wrong move won. The move went the wrong way. New England opened and closed a 3.5-point favorite. And then Monday night, Houston opened a 3.5-point favorite. Money came in on Pittsburgh. That line went to 3. So what I'm saying there is that the lines maker apparently had the better opening line relative to the closing line in several of those games last week. The Westgate this week opened, and we don't know what the closing line will be. They opened this game pick'em. The early money did come in on Buffalo as high as 1. And then I think it was on Monday, the line went down to, or the line switched over. I just want to make sure. Yeah, it was on the 12th, which was Monday. Early in the morning, Buffalo was a 1-point favorite. By the evening stayed that way on Monday, and then on Tuesday it went to 1, and finally 1.5 on Wednesday. So the line, which opened pick'em and initially the money came on Buffalo, has gone the other way. I'm just pointing that out just for those who like to follow line moves and things like that, and just it's a small sample, but it worked last week. I happen to like Buffalo. I felt that the winner of Buffalo-Jacksonville had a really good chance of making it to the Super Bowl, whichever team that was last week. I happened to have Buffalo last week, and again, it came down to the final possession, and did Buffalo score a little bit too early, and then of course we had the end of the game with the interception on the very first play after the kickoff. But I like Buffalo in this game. I'd rather have if it comes down, like I was about to say, that we could see the Broncos putting up big numbers and holding Buffalo in check. But if it's a competitive game, I'd rather have Josh Allen in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go than I would have Bo Nix, just based upon what we've seen. Interestingly enough, and it's still something that's pretty interesting and amazing, Buffalo overall was number 4 on offense, number 7 on defense this year. Slight edge over Denver, who was number 2 on defense. Denver not quite as good. They were top 10 in offense and defense as well. But the Buffalo split is pretty significant. 26 against the run, number 1 against the pass. And the numbers are surprisingly similar, and I don't recall ever seeing this narrow a spread in modern football. They allow 136 on the ground, 157 on the through the air. That's a 21-yard difference between rushing and passing, which tells you that teams are not able to pass. They are able to run, but when they try to pass, they're not able to have success. So I think Buffalo's numbers against the run, and a lot of it had to do with the first 3 quarters of the season. Their performance over the last 5 games of the season against the run was significantly better than their overall numbers. So I'll see what happens with in that game. I'll be curious to see how Bo Nix plays, but I've got future tickets on both teams, so I'm going to be in good position regardless, at least for another week. But I just like Josh Allen. I think the Bills know their window is closing as far as their championship abilities, and they don't have to go past Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow to get there. They have to go through Bo Nix to take the next step.
Well, I hate to be the stick in the mud, guys, but I'm going to cast my vote for the Denver Broncos. So it ends up being 3-1 Buffalo Bills from our panel here. And I'm not playing on Bo Nix over Josh Allen. I'm playing on Sean Payton over Sean McDermott. I think there's an outstanding coaching edge in this football game to Denver here. And I believe with the rest and the altitude, I think it'll be a big, big factor for them. Let's move on to Sunday.
Yeah, but by the way, I was just going to mention that the altitude is the one factor. Playing on the road in these conditions, and we did point out that Buffalo finally got their first road win last week, but the cold weather should not affect Buffalo just as bad at Buffalo as it is in Denver. The altitude, however, is a difference maker, or a possible advantage. Well, it is an advantage for the Broncos.
On Sunday, Houston Texans, the number 5 seed, take on the New England Patriots, the number 2 seed. In fact, both of these matchups on Sundays involve 2s and 5s as far as seeding is concerned. Greg DePalma, what happens here? Houston, New England. Does New England's charm run out, or does Houston's charm run out in this football game?
Well, I'm going to take Houston, as I said before, but I'm definitely worried about a few things. Not only does it look like, because as Andy mentioned, no practice Wednesday for Nico Collins, which is a bad sign. On the flip side, Christian Gonzalez.
By the way, it is concussion protocol that he has to pass. It's not just an injury that he's overcoming, so he has to be cleared. And I think it's unusual for most players to be cleared that with such little time between the occurrence of the concussion and the next game.
Yeah, especially if they haven't practiced yet. Which is why I fear that he's running out of time. Christian Gonzalez is also in concussion protocol, but at least he was limited on Wednesday, and that's important because he's their best defensive player. So right there, you're talking about number 1 corner, number 1 receiver, and if one plays and the other doesn't, that's a major edge to whoever that team is. And then also you look at Pro Bowl linebacker Azeez Al-Shahir for Houston is also limited, as is Kwame Lassiter. These are really important players for Houston on defense, so you got to keep an eye on that. But like I said, if everybody plays and it's just Nico Collins that doesn't play, I'm still going to go with Houston. I just think that they've been there, done that. New England, yes, they got their feet wet, they got their win, but I mean, was anybody really impressed with the Patriots? I mean, I wasn't. I just think they took advantage of a banged-up Charger team. The offense didn't look very good at all, and now they got to go up against Houston defense. So that's why I'm going to take Houston. I think they're a little bit more experienced this time of year than the Patriots are, but those injuries are the biggest concern.
Jim, which side of this game did you tease to your key on the teasers? Was it Houston or New England?
It's Houston.
Okay.
And my only question is Stroud, and it concerned me how he played against Pittsburgh and the turnovers. He looked like a deer in headlights. The Houston defense is the best in the industry in the NFL, and I do know that strength of schedule matters. And New England played the softest schedule. And some people said it was the softest schedule that any NFL team has played since 1980.
And Jim, on the flip side, and I know we talked about this about a month or so ago, Houston played a really tough schedule. So you take a look at all the games that Houston played and the teams that they beat was as tough as any schedule that is out there, and then flip it with the Patriots, and it's just a very big disparity right there.
That's a big factor, and I use that a lot.
I'm going to have some numbers on that, by the way, when we get to my turn.
Okay. No, I like the I favor the under. I went under 41. I teased Houston. I got that up to 10 on a 6.5 plus 3.5, and I love the way Drake May's playing, but considering he's played such a weak schedule and he's going to go up against something right here with this pass rush that Houston has, and they're very, very tough. And I don't know that the offensive line and Drake May can hold up against that. Now, if Stroud's going to do what he did last week against Pittsburgh, they're going to get blown out of the water because Drake May and company and Vrabel is a good coach. They'll take advantage of that. Stroud has got to step up. And that I was shocked at how poorly he played. But that's my concern. But I have to look aside with that and say, okay, that was a bad game. He's not that bad a player. But they do have Mills who can step in. And they have been talking about replacing Stroud with Mills off that terrible game. So it's a possibility.
Andy, before I hand this off to you, just a quick note, trend trackers. I missed this when we were talking about the game. Great point that he throws in here that Bo Nix is 13-1 outright at home with the Denver Broncos.
Yep. What's Bo Nix's record at home with the Denver Broncos in a playoff game?
Well, how about the third quarter of a playoff game, Greg? If you want to dig, you want to keep digging deep on that.
I'm just saying he's never been in that spot before, so that's the point.
He hasn't, but I sure like him taking a 13-1 record into the game. He's really in comfortable confines, nonetheless. Andy, it's your turn here, bud. Which side of this football game are you going? I think it's a real tough game myself, personally. Patriots or Texans?
Well, Jim talked about the strength of schedule, and I'll just throw some numbers out there. I normally look at not just the opponent's record overall, but I take out the games against the team. So, for example, Houston's opponents were 151, 138 straight up. New England's opponents were 113 and 176 straight up. Now, when I do my break it down, wins and losses, I take out games against Houston. So the teams that Houston beat, if you take out the games in the loss column for the opponents, 90 and 102 for the teams that Houston beat. For the teams that New England beat without New England's losses in there, it's 88 and 136 as far as the record of the teams that both of these teams won. That's where is it here? For Houston, that's 48.9%. For New England, it's 39.9%, 39.3%. But I also take a look at the losses, the teams that Houston lost to, without including the wins over Houston. Those teams were 56 and 24, which is 70%. New England's 14 wins came against teams that were 22 and 26. So not only did Houston beat teams that were better than the teams that New England defeated, Houston lost to teams that were better than the teams that New England lost to. Of course, there were only three, and one of them was the Raiders, okay, in the first game of the year, which is probably one of the more surprising upsets. Another thing I do is I also take a look at common opponents. And these teams, Houston does have a plus 17 to plus 3 turnover edge in this contest. In 8 games against common foes, Houston is 7-1 straight up with an average scoring margin of plus 12 points per game. New England is 5-3. Their wins have their overall margin, wins and losses, just 3.1 points per game. Both teams were 5-3. So not only has Houston played the tougher schedule overall, which is obvious, against common foes, they also outperformed New England in those games. I've got Houston winning this game.
And he's on the Houston Texans in this football game. And as I mentioned, I think it's one of the toughest calls on the board.
Plus the fact that Houston already, this is their third straight season, and this would be their first road win after losing on the road after wild card wins in their first 2 years. So they do have a significant experience edge over this iteration of the New England Patriots.
And I also agree with the fact that we don't know exactly about Nico Collins in this football game here. And I think for as poorly as you mentioned, C.J. Stroud played, I think he needs all the help he can get in this contest. I think that's a key thing to watch out for in the game. Guys, let's wrap it up with the final game on tap on Sunday. And it'll be the upstart Chicago Bears hosting the L.A. Rams, the only home dog on the card as it is right now, as Denver went to the favorite. L.A. Rams, Chicago Bears. Greg DePalma, what do you see going on here?
Well, it's been some year for the Bears. Their fans, it's been incredible. And it's just going to, after they lose on Sunday, they'll look back and they'll be really, it'll sting a little bit. But, they'll have to just, be happy. You've got your coach, you might have your quarterback, and maybe in the next few years, the Bears will be a Super Bowl contender, but they're not a Super Bowl contender yet. They don't have a defense. They can't stop anybody. And the Rams, the thing I like about the Rams as well in this game is a lot of people talking about the weather. You got to keep in mind the Rams are not your typical, warm weather team, meaning the Rams can play in any weather. The Rams can play and beat you anyway. The Rams use 13 personnel better than maybe any team, meaning they have multiple tight ends because they can run the football down your throat if they need to. So they can throw the ball, they can run the ball. They're also getting healthier than they've been all year. They're getting their offensive line healthier, a couple other players coming back, being healthy. They still have a couple of injuries, but so does everybody else. So for the most part, the Rams, they escaped Carolina, and I don't know what to say about that other than maybe Carolina just isn't good a matchup for them. I mean, they lost to them previous a couple months ago, so that's just probably not a good matchup. And but they got out of there, they survived, and they moved on, and that's all you can do. So I feel pretty confident that the Rams will find a way. What you don't want to do in this game, though, is get ahead by 3 touchdowns. That's what you don't want to do. But as long as they don't go up 21-0, I think they'll be fine.
Well, the Chicago Bears would not want to see 3 touchdowns. They've been the kings of comebacks, obviously, this football season here 7 times, these furious fourth quarter comebacks. Andy, go ahead. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, looking at this game, I do like the Rams. What tempers my enthusiasm is the poor play of the defense over the last 7 games. You also do have to run that maybe the Bears wouldn't mind falling behind 21-3 because they showed that they could overcome that. And we saw that the Rams gave up that big lead against Seattle in a late season game when they had that game comfortably in hand entering the fourth quarter.
And last week.
Last week against Carolina as well, 14-0 early, and came down to the final possession that determined that game. So the Rams are the better team. They do have the better roster. I think, at least right now, better personnel as well. I'm just concerned about, let's put it this way, of the 4 games that I've gone with, I think I said San Francisco, Buffalo, Houston, and the Rams. By far, this is the one I'm least comfortable about. Simply because of the dramatic change in the way the defense has played over the important half of the season.
Well, I'm going to be on the LA Rams in this game, guys. And with that, we would end up with an all NFC West championship game in the NFC conference. Because of the winner coming out of Frisco and Seattle. What I'm getting to the Rams about is this. If you take a look at how these teams perform statistically in stat matchups each game, Chicago was the poorest of any NFL playoff team. They went up against 5 other playoff teams. They won the yards only 1 time. The Rams went up against 9 other playoff teams. They won the yards 7 times. So it's the best against the worst. And if you concede the yards to the Rams on that basis, on that equation, I'll back Matt Stafford over Caleb Williams in a heartbeat in this football game here. One other note I'm going to throw out there, because this is a beauty, and it comes from this week's Playbook football newsletter. You got an NFL home dog who just won as an NFL home dog. What happens to that team in the second of back-to-back home dog rolls? They disappear. They've gone 3-21 straight up.
Ooh.
And 5-19 against the spread in these football games. That would fade the Chicago Bears in this contest as well. Put me down on the LA Rams, who I think is going to make it to the Super Bowl.
Andy, who did you take, Andy?
I took the Rams reluctantly.
Okay.
One of the things I did not mention, but I did write about 6 weeks ago, the line in this game might have been closer to a touchdown or more.
Yes.
So quote unquote, there's value in the line if you look at it in those ways. On the other hand, there's a reason for almost a field goal difference between what it would have been and what it is now, and I think that has to be the play of the Rams down the stretch.
Well, Jim, what gets you to the Chicago Bears as your teaser side in this football game?
The number.
Well, I don't like the way the Rams have played the last 6 or 7 weeks, as Andy's pointed out. I can't really say much about Chicago because most of what they're doing is almost like the Miracle Mets years ago. I mean, they just, how can a team always be down 10, 14, 21 points and keep coming back and winning? But they do. And I can't, they have the potential. They have the explosiveness. They can put a lot of pressure on you. They can turn you over. They play a full 60 minutes of hard football. They don't quit. that tenacity can win you games. And taking 4 as a home dog in a situation where no matter how good the Rams can play in cold weather, this weather is definitely more Chicago than it is Rams. So I have that little going for me too. So, I mean, that can affect the kicking game. It can affect your wide receivers holding onto the ball or your running backs holding onto the ball. It can affect Stafford, who has a little bit of a hand injury anyway, holding the ball. And there's a lot of edges you can look at, little ones. Rams are the better team. I'm not going to argue with that. They were ranked. I thought they were the best team in football at the beginning of the year, but they have slipped. And now I think Seattle's the best team in football because they're healthier. They're home. Rams are doing something. They were a favorite last week on the road. Now they're a favorite again on the road. This is a difficult spot to continue to be on the road in environments which you're not really used to. So I got the Bears plus the 4.
Is there any concern about Matthew Stafford's injured hand in this football game to you, Jim?
Yeah, there is. There is definitely, because cold weather can make a real big difference. And, you know, there's always the chance he can get hit on that hand again. I mean, it's a rough game. And now you're going to be looking at maybe a backup quarterback.
Well, for what it's worth, and they could say whatever they want to say, everything's fine. He's fine now, and it's not going to be an issue. But that's just what they're saying. So,
and when
you also have to think that Chicago may be playing with the most confidence of any team still remaining. They just know they can win.
And when their lips are moving, Greg, you know they're lying.
You mean like people in Washington? Is what you're saying, Jim? Something to that effect?
Mark? Did you take?
I would never say anything
like
that, Mark.
I'm sorry, Greg?
Did you take Houston or the New England, Mark?
In this football game, I didn't like the game. I'm going to lean to New England in the contest, though. Just a lean. Just a small side. So if you have to put me down for a side, push me to New England in the game here.
Okay.
Before we get over to the college football conference championship game on Monday, I want to remind all our listeners, anybody out there, if you like what you're seeing here, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. We would really, really, truly enjoy you doing just that. And also, we've been talking before about ProLine TV offering up a cast of plays from our cast of experts on the ProLine TV channel. Just hit the join button. You'll find Jim Feist and myself, along with the experts, including Andy Iskoe and Greg DePalma. Visit our community page and get yourself lined up for an extra handful of winners as you tune in with us each and every week. Before we get to that game, John.
One more NFL, Mark.
I'm sorry?
You're going to talk about any? You got more promos?
More promos?
You said you were you going to go to college?
Yes.
Yeah, I got one more thing in the NFL. Have you guys seen this yet? This Steve Bisciotti press conference?
Oh, no. From Baltimore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you, Mark, Jim?
Scornful, but go ahead and play it if you would, Greg.
Yeah, these are just some of the sound bites because he hasn't talked to the media in like 7 years. There's no use for him. There's no reason to talk, when you're not firing coaches and, there's no reason for you to put yourself out there, but he has. And here is just a little bit.
He's a character.
Yes. Here's some of the clips from the Pat McAfee show.
When it's all said and done, how much of a say will Lamar have in the head coach selection?
A lot of say, but he has no power.
Okay.
I have the power. They have opinions, and I want them all. I care about my players very much, but I can't give them power.
Loves them. Yeah.
He's better than everybody.
If Tyler Loop makes that field goal, is John Harbaugh still here coaching this team?
For a week.
Yeah.
Owners on the mic, he's better than everybody. guy's unbelievable.
At Pittsburgh.
He did? Is it official?
That's what I keep hearing. So is he a candidate here?
Holy shit, Mike. Wouldn't that be awesome? Only if John takes the Pittsburgh job. Wow. Wouldn't that be interesting? I don't know. That thing last week maybe disqualified him for my opening after our kicker missed a kick to let them advance.
Owners on the mic is better than everybody. We need more of this. Okay, here you go.
When Tony Dungy said this is a bad decision and good luck finding someone better than John, I literally wanted to call Tony and say, you remember John 18 years ago? How can you take our success and use it against me while we're out trying to find the next John Harbaugh? That's impossible. So
Owners on the mic is better than everybody.
So anyway, that was a little bit.
I remember saying, I don't know if it was on this podcast, I did several of them, that when the rumors were swirling that it might be the end for Tomlin, and to a certain extent, Harbaugh on the hot seat, I said, why don't they just trade coaches for one another? They're so familiar with each other's teams that would make for a strong continuation of the rivalry with each guy coaching the other side.
Yeah, that would be quite crazy. But Harbaugh is going to go to the Giants. That looks like that's almost official.
Yeah.
And Mike Tomlin probably take the year off. I think he needs a year off. So he hasn't interviewed with anybody, and I don't think
he's supposedly he's going to. The networks are very much interested in having him join one of the teams. The four major networks that do the NFL.
Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up with the college football game. There's a game on Monday. Happens to be the college football national championship game taking place down here in Miami. The Miami, Florida Hurricanes hosting the Indiana Hoosiers. Before we get to that game, I'm going to pass another note here. A good friend of ours, John Putnam, he's a playbooker, and he follows us whatever we do. And he just wanted to pat us all on the back for the great job that we're doing. Victor King as well on the podcast and all the information that we pass along. So, John, we really appreciate your support and we really appreciate your comments. Just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, guys, we got that football game coming up on Monday. When I did this, I kind of did this research and then I put it up on Twitter, and now I know the whole world's doing it or picked up on it. The fact that Mario Cristobal.
And his father. And Mendoza's father.
Fernando Mendoza Sr. were on the starting football team for Christopher Columbus High School down here in Miami and know each other really rather quite well. Sort of unique, sort of a brotherhood in this football game, if you will. And I get to a point sometime where I say to myself, you're going to keep stepping in front of this Indiana football team and getting beat like a drum, and you can see it coming. You just knew it might happen. You knew it might happen. It happens. It happens. It happens. Before I turn it over to the three guys here, I just want to say that to me, this Indiana Hoosier football team looks an awful lot alike, like the LSU Joe Burrow-led Bengals Tigers when they won the national championship and just blew the drawers off of everybody. This is what Indiana has that look and feel about this football season here. And a lot of that is Kirk Cignetti, their head coach. Kirk Cignetti, when he's taking on an opponent that has a 900 or less win percentage, he's won all 18 games that he's played against those teams. Kirk Cignetti, when he's a single-digit favorite, as he is in this game, he's 19-1 straight up and 16-4 to the spread. Kirk Cignetti, after his team allows 24 or fewer points, or when his team does in a game, 39-1 straight up and 28-7 to the spread. I am not stepping in front of the Indiana Hoosiers here. I'm going to be on Indiana in this football game, and I'm going to find out what our cast of experts has to say about the feel on this. Andy, I'm going to throw it over to you first. Your take here on this national championship game.
I have one question for you, and it concerns the allocation of tickets for this game. Super Bowl host cities normally allocate maybe 5 to 8% of the tickets for the local market. Okay, this year that would be Santa Clara, what are the Super Bowls. I don't know what the situation is with the NCAA and those neutral site conference games. I don't care necessarily about the bowl games, but the championship playoff games. Does Miami, by virtue of hosting this game, regardless of who the opponents would have been, do they get an allocation of tickets just for the local market, sort of to help the local economy by having people locally had an opportunity to come and see a championship game in the host city? Forget the fact that Miami is playing.
They do, Andy, and that you'll be seeing probably more of a flavor to Miami in this game, largely because of that. People are going to be coming from all across the country and paying ludicrous amounts of money for tickets for this game.
And hotel rooms.
And hotel rooms. I mean, there's a hotel room that's across the street from Gulfstream Racetrack. It's just a little old Comfort Inn, and they're getting $800 a night. $800.
The reason I mention this is because you would have thought the previous game where Indiana played Oregon, you would have thought that the game was being played at Indiana. I think they had about, 75-80% of the crowd support?
Yes.
So that normally you would think that Indiana would like to have a great deal of crowd support, but the fact, and the reason I asked the question is that a lot of people in Miami may now have an opportunity to see their team play for a national championship, and that perhaps a lot of the local tickets in a traditional market that didn't involve two teams would normally go to fans of one of the two teams. Most of those tickets in the local area will now go to Miami fans rather than Indiana fans. Indiana will still have their allocation. Miami, Florida will have its allocation, but the host city would have the allocation. So we may not see anything close to I may be wrong on this, but I would think we might not see as much of an Indiana fan presence in this game as we did in the game against Oregon. Okay.
So which side of the game are you going to allocate, Andy, here?
I'm looking at the fact that both of these teams, Ohio State played their last two games of the season at neutral sites. The first against Indiana that they lost 13-10, and the second against Miami that they lost 24-14. If you looked at the stats of those games, they were relatively close. I think the main difference that I noticed was that in the game against Miami, Ohio State was -2 in turnovers, and in the game against Indiana, the turnovers were evenly split. I don't know if there were any turnovers, but it was 1-1, 2-2, 0-0, whatever. So not much of a difference in the effort of the performance of both of those teams. Indiana has been tested more this year, close games against Penn State, close games against Iowa. I think Iowa was the only team that Indiana allowed fewer than 20 points against, 18 that they scored fewer than 20 points against, and that was in their 18-16 win against Iowa. We've seen this line go up from 7 to 8.5. I saw some 9s out there, and as I mentioned when we were talking about Jim's teasers earlier, we may see Indiana go up as high as 10 because this might be the greatest story in college football history. What Indiana has done last year and this year. What were they? I think they were 13-2 last year. And 15-0 this year, 28-2. They have a chance to become the first team ever to go 16-0 because of the added playoff games and of course they had a bye in the first game. I think Miami's defense, clearly the best units on the field for both teams are the offenses. Okay. However, we know about how good Indiana's defense has been all year. Okay. And that often gets overshadowed by the big numbers they're putting up on offense. Miami's defense has been the strength. Their offense has been rather pedestrian compared to most other teams, although they've put up some big numbers against opponents as well. I'm not quite sure who I would say played the more difficult schedule. Certainly in the playoffs, you give Miami credit for playing Texas A&M, Ohio State, and then Ole Miss, which came down to the final possession again. And Indiana, of course, blew out Alabama and blew out Oregon in the game that was not as close as the 56-22 score might suggest. I want to see how high this line goes. I think Indiana wins the game, but I think Miami's defense is going to be by far the best defense or comparable to the Ohio State defense that both teams saw. So I think Miami's going to have an opportunity to slow down the the Indiana offense in this game. As far as the total goes, total I'm showing is right around 47.5. And because I like the fact that both teams have outstanding defenses, and I'll usually go with defense over offense in such matchups where both the units, well, certainly where both defensive units are outstanding, I'm going to look for this one to stay under the 47.5, which makes the underdog, whether it be 8.5, 9, or 10, a little bit more attractive. So I am going with the underdog Miami in a game that I do expect Indiana to win.
I agree, Andy. I think the under is really a strong look in this football game. And I don't know, Jim, if you're considering a side in this, or would you even consider teasing? But you don't tease college games, you said.
Well,
So
I don't
right now, as
usually,
we're
but this
speaking,
one I have.
who
because
do you
I have-
anticipate teasing in this championship game on Monday?
I have Seattle teased with Indiana. It's one of the
Okay.
teasers I have. And then like I said, I'm going to come back with Florida, Miami, Florida, plus the points as a protection bet. But that's all part of a money management arbitraging situation that I got going. It really doesn't matter what names on their teams. It's all about money. But in this game, I will say this: I don't usually originate college bets. I follow people that are very good at it. This game opened 48. Most of the lines are 47 or 47.5. There's one place that's 46.5, and I respect it a lot. That indicates to me, and sometimes I may let the market make my decision. I'm going to say this is probably an under bet because of that, because I know who that book is, and they're very smart, and they usually have the right lean on all these numbers. So I'm going under the total. I'm going to try to go under 48, 48.5, 47.5, whatever I can find. Excuse me. But that's what I'm doing in the game.
Well, you mentioned under, and the one thing we called out in our Playbook playoff guide this particular weekend is what Indiana has done defensively. They carry this moniker about being this powerful offensive team, but it's the defense that sets the offense up. They held 11 opponents this year to season low points. That's incredible. Season low points 11 times Indiana. Season low yards 6 times for Indiana. And you're pairing them up against a Miami defense that's very, very good. And I agree with you, Jim. I think the under is a real strong side. Look at this football game. That's the side I'd be looking here at as well. Greg, what do you think?
By the way, Mark, I just want to mention one thing about, because Cignetti is not ashamed about running up the score.
No, he's not. No, that's probably your
For
concern,
Indiana.
Andy, to your under.
That is a concern.
Yes.
No, not to the under, to the side.
Yes.
Although it would affect the total as well.
Greg, who are you looking at? Indiana, Miami, Monday night.
Well, I'm going to stick with Miami. They were my long shot pick along with Texas A&M and Ole Miss, and Miami. I've been riding them ever since their first round win. So I look at this one though as a lot different than what Indiana's been through, which is an obvious statement. There's more pressure these kids are going to face on Monday night than ever before. They're undefeated. That's number one. Number two, they're heavily favored, so they're supposed to win. And that's really what's been going on. Everybody is talking about how good Indiana is, and this game is already over. It's Indiana's championship, and we're just waiting to crown them on Monday night. I don't think the game in Miami will affect, as far as the crowd, Miami any better. I think that's just going to be a home field comfort thing more than anything. But again, it's been because of Miami's defense, and you mentioned the turnovers at Ohio State. That's the only way Miami can win. I don't think Miami can win this game without the turnovers. But the other thing too is with Indiana is that we just got to remember that and we said this all season, they did not really play a very tough schedule. And when they went to the Big Ten championship game, that was like their first big test. Yeah, they had a test in Oregon. We get that. But as I said last week, I still had no idea at that point how good Oregon was. And I think we saw. I just don't think Oregon was all that as good as some people maybe had thought. And you have to really give Indiana all the credit in the world for everything they've done. And that's why I took them last week and I took them the week before. And so I'm not just coming late here. I'm just saying that I just think that now they're playing a team that has monumental confidence, has a very good defense. They've got 3 kids on the defensive line who are going to be NFL draft picks. Matter of fact, the Jets with the 2nd pick, with Mendoza going to the Raiders, I'm pretty hopeful that they're going to get Reuben Bain, Miami's edge rusher, and I think that could be quite possible that could happen. That's how good he is. And so again, I think that now they're going to be tested against a red hot team with a veteran quarterback who's coming up big whenever he needs to come up big. They could run the ball as well. And let's keep this in mind too, because I've got this from one last go about it here from Marc Lawrence's Playbook magazine for the 2025-2026 season. Miami has 9 wins. Miami has 9 wins against AP number 1 ranked teams, tied with Alabama for the most all-time in college football. So let's make it 10 on Monday night. And Mario Cristobal's also had a pretty good record in these situations. That's the one thing that you actually can give him credit for, is when he's gone up against undefeated teams, when he's gone up against number 1 ranked teams, when he's gone up against top 5 ranked teams. He's the exact opposite of James Franklin. He wins these games. And that's going to be the thing that's going to be quite interesting on Monday, if Mario Cristobal can finally get the recognition he deserves. Because anything short of a blowout, I think he'll deserve the recognition, even if they lose the football game in a close game. I think he's going to deserve the credit. But yeah, I'm going to go with Miami. I'm going to keep the run going, and 3-1 on the money line in a championship game. I think that's awfully nice.
Well, respectfully, Greg, there's one thing I beg to differ is Indiana's strength of schedule here. They did open up with 3 high schools, no question about it. But when they got into conference play, it was Big Ten material. And their body of work this season here, they went up against 9 bowl teams this football season, won every one of them, won the yard 7 times by 145 yard per game average. But to Miami's credit, they faced 3 fellow college football playoff opponents. They've won and covered all 3. Indiana would probably raise the bet and say, we've done it 4 times. So I think we've got a really, really strong football championship game on tap here. I was down on Miami that they even got in here to begin with, but they've proven their worth, and it's going to be a game you want to watch because it's down here in Hard Rock Stadium. It will be rocking for sure. But I'm a big Curt Cignetti fan, and I am not so much on Mario Cristobal. I think there's a huge coaching mismatch here. Now, put me down for the Indiana side, and I love Andy's under total in the football game here as well.
Mark, how did you probably have the final numbers there? I know the Big Ten was doing extremely well in the bowl season. I think the ACC was as well. Do you have the final numbers? Because I think both of those conferences did well.
I know I had them when we were doing last week's newsletter.
Yeah.
Or when they were playing, when they were still alive in bowl season here. But
I know the Big Ten was doing extremely well.
I think they did the best. Yes, the Big Ten did. Exactly. SEC struggled a little bit this year. Not
quite a bit.
A lot. Yes, exactly. Okay, guys, really strong show here this week. I want to thank everybody for your contributions. Wish you nothing but the best of success this weekend. Jim, I hope and I pray that your teasers are wonderful for you this weekend.
Sweep the board.
They make that big decision on Monday night.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a winning week and lots of luck and stay healthy.
Okay, guys, until next week, once again, this is Marc Lawrence. Remind you to always remember to bet with your head, not over it, and good luck as always.